The worst mistake you can make is assuming you know who is hunting you. I learned that on a rainy Thursday night when I realized there wasn't just one set of eyes following me. There were two. The rain had started before my shift ended, and by the time I stepped out of the physical therapy clinic, the streets of Manhattan looked like a painting someone had smeared with water. Yellow taxi lights blurred against wet pavement. Traffic hissed through puddles. My coat wasn't thick enough for the cold, but it was all I had. I pulled the collar higher and started the 6-block walk toward the subway station. Usually, I loved walking after work. It gave me time to clear my head, time to forget about overdue bills, student loans, and the tiny apartment waiting for me in Queens. But that night felt different. The feeling started as a small knot in my stomach. The kind of instinct you can't explain. The kind every woman learns to trust. I looked over my shoulder. Nothing unusual, just strangers with umbrellas. A couple arguing outside a coffee shop. A delivery truck unloading boxes. Still, the feeling wouldn't leave. I kept walking. My sneakers splashed through shallow puddles. My phone buzzed inside my pocket. The screen lit up immediately. Ryan. My chest tightened. I hadn't spoken to him in 3 months. 3 peaceful months. 3 months without unexpected calls, unwanted messages, or excuses about how he had changed. I should have blocked the number. Instead, I stared at the screen. Another message arrived. Then another. Then another. My fingers trembled as I opened the newest one. You can't avoid me forever, Emily. I stopped walking. The rain tapped softly against the edge of my hood. My heartbeat became the loudest sound in the city. Slowly, I looked across the street. And there he was, standing beneath a bus stop shelter, watching me. Even from half a block away, I recognized him instantly. Ryan Cole. Tall. Hands shoved into his jacket pockets. Eyes locked directly on me. The sight of him made old memories rush back. The endless arguments. The possessiveness disguised as love. The feeling that I was slowly disappearing every time I was around him. I turned away, immediately, and continued walking. Faster this time. My phone buzzed again. I didn't look. Another buzz followed. Then another. The subway entrance appeared ahead of me. Relief washed through my chest. People. Cameras. Safety. I quickened my pace. Then I noticed something that made me stop. Across the street, parked near the corner, was a black SUV. I had seen it yesterday, and the day before. At first, I thought it was coincidence. New York was full of black SUVs. But this one was impossible to forget. Dark windows. Polished paint. Same location. Same feeling. My pulse quickened. Ryan was behind me. The SUV was ahead. And suddenly, for the first time all evening, I realized something terrifying. Ryan wasn't the only person watching me. I stood there beneath the rain, staring at the black SUV while water dripped from the edge of my hood. Logic told me it was just a vehicle. Nothing more. But instincts are rarely logical. They whisper. They tug at something deep inside you. And mine were screaming. I forced myself to keep walking. The subway entrance was less than 100 feet away. Bright lights. Security cameras. Other people. Normal people. That was where I needed to be. Behind me, I heard footsteps. I did not have to look to know who it was. Ryan. The sound was steady, unhurried, confident, like a man who believed he already knew how the night would end. My phone vibrated again. I ignored it. Then it rang. The sharp sound cut through the ring. I pulled it from my pocket and saw his name flashing across the screen. Ryan. Against my better judgment, I answered. What do you want? I asked. For a moment, there was only silence. Then came his voice. Calm. Too calm. I want to talk. I almost laughed. 3 months earlier, talking had meant endless arguments that left me exhausted for days. There is nothing left to say. Emily. My name sounded strange coming from him now. Distant. Familiar and wrong at the same time. Just let me explain. Goodbye, Ryan. I ended the call and shoved the phone back into my pocket. My pace quickened. The subway entrance grew closer. Then I heard a car door close. Not behind me. Ahead of me. My eyes lifted automatically. The black SUV. The driver's door had opened. A man stepped out. Even from across the street, he commanded attention. Tall. Broad shoulders. Dark coat perfectly fitted despite the weather. He stood completely still as rain fell around him. Watching. Not approaching. Just watching. A strange chill crawled down my spine. I looked away immediately and headed down the subway stairs. The station was half empty. A few commuters stood scattered along the platform. A musician packed away his guitar near one of the columns. Everything looked normal. Everything should have felt normal, but it did not. I moved toward the far end of the platform and waited. A train was due in 4 minutes. 4 minutes suddenly felt like an eternity. I glanced up, and my stomach dropped. Ryan had entered the station. He was walking down the stairs, scanning the platform, looking for me. My heart began hammering against my ribs. Then something even stranger happened. Another figure appeared at the top of the stairs. The man from the SUV. He descended slowly, one step at a time. Ryan noticed him immediately. The change in Ryan was instant. His shoulders stiffened. His expression tightened. Fear. Real fear. I had never seen that look on Ryan's face before. Not once. The two men stared at each other across the platform while commuters moved around them without noticing anything unusual. Then the train lights appeared in the tunnel. Relief flooded through me. The train was coming. I only had to get on and leave. But as the headlights grew brighter, the stranger's eyes found mine for the first time. And without saying a single word, he shook his head, as if stepping onto that train would be the biggest mistake of my life. The stranger shook his head once. A small movement, barely noticeable, but something about it sent a chill through me. The train roared closer. Wind rushed through the station. Around me, commuters stepped toward the yellow line, gathering bags and adjusting coats, completely unaware that something felt terribly wrong. I looked from the approaching train to Ryan. He was no longer watching me. His eyes were fixed on the stranger. The tension between them was impossible to miss now. Ryan looked angry. The stranger looked calm. Somehow that was even more unsettling. The train screeched to a stop. Doors slid open. People stepped off. Others hurried on. This was my chance. My escape. My normal life waiting on the other side of a closing train door. I took a step forward. Then my phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number. My stomach tightened. I opened it. Do not get on that train. My breath caught. Slowly, I looked up. The stranger had not moved. His hands remained in his coat pockets. His expression never changed. Another message appeared. 3 words. Trust me once. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. This was insane. I did not know this man. I did not know how he had my number. I did not know why Ryan seemed afraid of him. Everything about the situation screamed danger. Yet every instinct told me something else. The train doors chimed. Final boarding warning. I hesitated. Then I stepped back. The doors closed. The train pulled away. Relief should have followed. Instead, the knot in my stomach only tightened. Across the platform, Ryan suddenly turned and walked away. Fast. Almost hurried. Within seconds, he disappeared up the station stairs. I stared after him. Ryan never walked away from anything. Not like that. The stranger finally moved. He crossed the platform with measured steps. People drifted around him without a second glance. The closer he came, the more details I noticed. Dark hair touched with faint silver near the temples. Sharp features. Expensive coat. Eyes the color of a winter storm. He stopped several feet away. Not close enough to threaten. Close enough to speak. Emily Carter. Hearing my full name from a stranger made my pulse jump. How do you know who I am? He studied me for a moment. Because someone has spent months looking for you. The noise of the station seemed to disappear. Ryan? I asked. No. His answer came instantly. Someone else. Fear crept through my chest. Who? For the first time, something shifted in his expression. Concern. Genuine concern. It appeared for only a second before disappearing again. That is the problem, he said quietly. I do not know who they are either. I stared at him, trying to decide whether he was lying. Then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. The color drained slightly from his face. He answered immediately. Listened. Said nothing. When the call ended, his jaw tightened. We need to leave. Why? I asked. His eyes lifted toward the station entrance. Because whoever has been searching for you just found this station. My first instinct was to laugh. Not because anything was funny. Because none of this felt real anymore. A stranger knew my name. He had my phone number. He claimed someone was searching for me. And now he was telling me we had to leave immediately. I am not going anywhere with you, I said. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. The man nodded once, as if he had expected that answer. Good, he replied. Most people would say the same thing. That was not the response I expected. He glanced toward the station entrance again. His attention never lingered anywhere for long. Always observing. Always calculating. Then make your own decision, he said quietly. But make it quickly. The knot in my stomach tightened. Around us, commuters continued moving through the station. A teenager wearing headphones hurried toward the stairs. A woman pushed a stroller toward the elevator. Everything looked normal, yet I could not shake the feeling that something had changed. The stranger stepped aside and pulled out his phone. He was giving me space, giving me a choice. That should have made me feel better. It did not. I looked toward the entrance. 3 men had just come down the stairs. They were dressed like ordinary professionals leaving late offices. Nothing unusual, except all 3 paused at exactly the same moment. Their eyes scanned the platform. Not casually, methodically. My pulse quickened. One of them pulled out a phone. Another pointed slightly toward the far end of the station. The movement was subtle, almost invisible, but the stranger noticed it too. His expression hardened. Emily. The sound of my name made me turn back toward him. You need to leave now. Who are they? I asked. I do not know. Then how do you know they are looking for me? For a second, silence stretched between us. Then he answered. Because they have been following the same pattern for 6 weeks. My mouth went dry. 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I thought back to the strange moments I had ignored. The unfamiliar cars parked near my apartment. The feeling of being watched during my morning commute. The man sitting in the coffee shop 2 days in a row. The same woman appearing at different subway stations. Tiny details. Easy to dismiss. Terrifying when connected together. Why me? I whispered. The stranger looked at me carefully, almost sadly. That is what I have been trying to figure out. Before I could respond, another train entered the station. The noise echoed through the tunnel. The 3 men near the stairs began moving again. Not running, not rushing, simply walking with purpose. The stranger slipped his phone back into his coat pocket. My car is outside. I do not even know your name. For the first time that evening, a faint smile touched his face. It disappeared almost instantly. Damien Moretti. The name meant nothing to me. Yet the moment he said it, the expression on one of the approaching men's faces changed completely. Recognition. Fear. And suddenly I realized something far more unsettling than being followed. The people searching for me might be dangerous, but Damien Moretti was the one they were afraid of. Fear is contagious. The moment I saw it flash across the face of one of those men, my decision was made. I did not know who Damien Moretti was. I did not know why strangers had been watching me for weeks. But I knew one thing. Standing on that platform was no longer an option. Damien turned without another word and started toward the stairs. For a second I remained frozen. Then I followed. The sound of my footsteps echoed behind his. My pulse hammered in my ears. Every instinct told me I was making a mistake. The strange thing was that staying felt like a bigger one. We climbed the stairs 2 at a time. Cold rain greeted us the moment we stepped back onto the street. The city looked different now. Darker. Every parked car seemed suspicious. Every stranger felt like a question I could not answer. Damien guided me toward the black SUV waiting at the curb. The driver opened the rear door immediately. He looked professional, calm, like he had done this 1,000 times before. I stopped beside the vehicle. I am not getting in until you tell me what is happening. Damien studied me for a moment. Rain rolled down the shoulders of his coat. Fair. The answer surprised me. He did not seem annoyed. If anything, he looked impressed. Then ask your questions. Who are you? I said. Damien Moretti. That tells me nothing. A faint smile appeared. It tells most people enough. I folded my arms. Not me. For the first time all evening, he looked directly amused. It softened his face for a brief second before disappearing. Good. The answer only frustrated me more. Why are people looking for me? His expression became serious again. I do not know. You keep saying that. Because it is the truth. Rain tapped softly against the roof of the SUV. Traffic moved through the intersection nearby. The city carried on as if my entire world had not tilted sideways in the last hour. Then how do you know I am in danger? I asked. Damien glanced toward the street behind me. His eyes never stopped observing. Because 6 weeks ago, someone paid a large amount of money to find a woman named Emily Carter. My stomach dropped. Me? He nodded. At first I assumed it was a private investigator. Then more people became involved. My throat felt dry. Why would anyone do that? Damien's gaze held mine. That is the same question I have been asking. A cold gust of wind swept through the street. I shivered despite my coat. Damien noticed immediately. Without a word, he removed his own coat and held it out. I stared at him. Take it. You will be cold. I will survive. Something about the way he said it made me accept. The coat was warm. Far warmer than it should have been. It carried the faint scent of cedar and rain. Comforting. Dangerous. Confusing. Damien opened the SUV door again. Come with me for one night. I looked up. And tomorrow? His eyes darkened slightly. Tomorrow we start finding answers. As I slid into the vehicle, I caught movement across the street. A figure stood beneath a storefront awning watching us. The moment our eyes met, the figure stepped back into the shadows. And for the first time that night, I realized someone was not just looking for me. Someone was making sure I stayed hidden. The city lights blurred against the rain-streaked window as the SUV pulled away from the curb. I sat in silence, Damien's coat wrapped around my shoulders, trying to convince myself that I still had control over my life. It was becoming harder by the minute. The interior of the vehicle was quiet. Too quiet. The driver focused on the road. Damien sat across from me, reviewing something on his phone. Calm. Focused. As if tonight was nothing unusual. I watched him for several seconds before finally speaking. Where are we going? He looked up immediately. Somewhere secure. That is not an answer. A faint smile touched the corner of his mouth. It is the only answer you are getting right now. I sighed and leaned back against the seat. Outside, Manhattan drifted past in reflections of glass and rain. Familiar streets gave way to unfamiliar ones. Taller buildings. Quieter blocks. Fewer people. Eventually, the SUV turned through a set of wrought iron gates and entered a private driveway lined with trees wrapped in soft white lights. My eyes widened. The property looked less like a home and more like a luxury hotel hidden in the middle of the city. The vehicle stopped beneath a covered entrance. Before I could reach for the door handle, someone opened it from outside. A woman in her 60s greeted us with a warm smile. Welcome home, Mr. Moretti. Home. The word felt strange. Damien stepped out first and offered me his hand. I hesitated before accepting it. His grip was steady, respectful. The warmth of it surprised me. Inside, the house was elegant without feeling cold. Soft lighting, hardwood floors, a fireplace glowing in the distance. It felt lived in, comfortable. Not at all what I expected from a man like Damien. The woman introduced herself as Margaret and led me upstairs to a guest suite larger than my entire apartment. Fresh towels waited in the bathroom. Clean clothes were folded neatly on the bed. Everything had been prepared before we arrived. That realization made me stop cold. Someone had expected me. The thought lingered as I changed into dry clothes. 20 minutes later, I found myself standing on a balcony overlooking the city. Rain still fell beyond the covered roofline. Somewhere below, traffic hummed softly in the distance. You should be sleeping. Damien's voice came from behind me. I turned. He had changed into a charcoal sweater and dark slacks. Somehow he looked even more intimidating without the expensive coat. More human too. I have questions. I know. He stepped beside me and rested one hand against the balcony railing. Then answer one. His gaze remained fixed on the city. Which one? I took a breath. How long have you known about me? For the first time since we met, Damien hesitated. Not long. Not dramatically. Just enough for me to notice. Then he looked at me. Directly. Honestly. Longer than you think. The answer sent a chill through me that had nothing to do with the weather. Before I could ask another question, lights suddenly appeared beyond the front gate. Several vehicles slowing outside the property. Damien noticed them instantly. His expression hardened. And in that moment, I realized whatever answers he had been keeping from me were about to catch up with both of us. The vehicles remained outside the gate for less than 30 seconds. Then they moved on. Slowly. Quietly. Their headlights disappeared into the rain. But the tension did not leave with them. Damien stayed perfectly still beside me, watching the empty road long after the lights vanished. Who were they? I asked. His jaw tightened. I am not sure. You always say that. He glanced at me. Because certainty gets people hurt. The answer frustrated me, but part of me understood it. Tonight had already proven how little I actually knew. About Damien. About the people looking for me. About my own life. We stood in silence for a moment. Rain tapped softly against the balcony roof. Somewhere inside the house, a clock chimed midnight. Then Damien's phone rang. He answered immediately. Talk to me. His voice was calm. Focused. I watched his expression carefully. It changed only once. A slight narrowing of his eyes. Nothing more. Yet somehow that small reaction worried me. When the call ended, he slipped the phone back into his pocket. What happened? I asked. One of my people found something. My heartbeat quickened. About me? He nodded. About your family. The words hit harder than I expected. My family. Damien leaned against the railing. Your father worked for a financial consulting company 15 years ago. I frowned. I know that. Do you? The question caught me off guard. My father had died when I was 12. Most of what I knew came from old photographs and scattered memories. Birthday parties. Fishing trips. His laugh. Nothing complicated. Nothing mysterious. Damien studied my reaction. According to official records, he was an accountant. That is what my mother always said. And according to unofficial records, Damien continued, he was investigating something before he died. Cold unease settled in my chest. Investigating what? That is the problem. He looked back toward the city lights. The files disappeared. I stared at him. You think this has something to do with me? I think someone spent a lot of money trying to find you. People do not do that without a reason. The wind shifted. Colder now. I wrapped Damien's coat tighter around myself. The fabric still carried warmth from earlier. A strange comfort in the middle of a conversation that was becoming increasingly unsettling. Why are you helping me? The question escaped before I could stop it. Damien was silent. Longer than usual. Finally he answered. Because someone should have done it a long time ago. I turned toward him. His expression remained unreadable. Yet something in his voice felt different. Personal. Almost regretful. Before I could press further, another phone rang. Not Damien's. Mine. The sound startled both of us. I pulled the device from my pocket. Unknown number. My stomach dropped. Slowly, I answered. Hello. For several seconds, there was only silence. Then a woman's voice spoke softly. Calmly. Emily Carter? Every nerve in my body tightened. Who is this? Another pause followed. Then the woman said something that made the blood drain from my face. Your father left you. Something. And people are willing to do anything to find it. The world seemed to stop moving. Rain continued falling beyond the balcony. The city lights still glowed in the distance. Yet all I could hear was the woman's voice on the phone. What did you say? I whispered. Damien turned toward me immediately. His expression sharpened the moment he saw my face. The woman remained calm. Almost gentle. Your father left you something, Emily. Something he never wanted the wrong people to find. My grip tightened around the phone. Who are you? Silence stretched for several seconds. Then she answered. Someone who knew him. My heart pounded. That is impossible. Is it? She asked softly. Your father was not the man you believed he was. Damien stepped closer. Not enough to invade my space. Just enough to hear part of the conversation. I could feel his attention fixed entirely on me now. What do you want? I asked. To help you. The answer came too quickly. Too easily. I did not trust it. Then tell me your name. Another pause. Not yet. My frustration rose instantly. Then why should I believe anything you say? The woman sighed. For the first time, she sounded tired. Because tomorrow morning you are going to find a wooden box hidden inside the wall behind your mother's bedroom closet. My breath caught. What? Your father put it there 12 years ago. My knees nearly gave out. The house I grew up in had been sold years ago. No one should know details like that. No stranger could invent something so specific. Beside me, Damien's expression darkened. He had heard enough to understand this conversation was no longer random. How do you know that? I asked. The woman's voice softened further. Because I helped him hide it. My mind raced. Memories surfaced unexpectedly. My father carrying tools into the bedroom one summer afternoon. My mother laughing about another unfinished home project. Small details I had never questioned before. Details that suddenly felt important. Real. What is inside the box? I asked. That is what everyone wants to know. A chill ran through me. Everyone. The woman hesitated. You are not the only one searching anymore. Damien's jaw tightened at those words. I could see it from the corner of my eye. Then tell me where you are, I said. If you really want to help me, meet me. The woman was silent for several seconds. Long enough to make me think she had ended the call. Finally she spoke. Be careful who you trust, Emily. My eyes shifted toward Damien automatically. The woman continued. Especially the ones who have been watching you the longest. Then the line went dead. I stared at the dark screen. My pulse thundered in my ears. Beside me, Damien remained completely still. Too still. Slowly, I looked up at him. She said someone has been watching me for a long time. His expression never changed. The silence between us felt heavier than anything she had told me. Then I remembered his answer from earlier. Longer than you think. And for the first time since meeting Damien Moretti, I began to wonder if he had been protecting me. For keeping secrets from me all along. The silence lasted only a few seconds. It felt much longer. Rain whispered against the roof above us while I searched Damien's face for answers. He did not look away. He did not become defensive. Somehow that made everything more complicated. Tell me the truth, I said quietly. How long have you been watching me? Damien exhaled slowly. For the first time since I met him, he looked tired. Not physically, emotionally, like he had been carrying something heavy for a very long time. 5 years. The number hit me harder than any answer I had imagined. My breath caught. 5 years. He nodded once. Not every day, not every week, but long enough. I stared at him in disbelief. Why? His gaze drifted toward the city lights below. Because your father saved someone's life a long time ago. I waited. Whose life? Damien looked back at me. Mine. The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Nothing made sense anymore. My father had died when I was 12. Damien could not have been much older than I was now. Yet the certainty in his voice left no room for doubt. You knew him? I asked. Briefly. His answer came quietly. Long enough to owe him more than I could ever repay. My heart pounded. Every question I had seemed to create 3 more. Before I could speak again, headlights appeared beyond the front gate. This time, only one vehicle approached. A silver sedan. It slowed near the entrance and stopped. Damien immediately reached for his phone. A few seconds later, it vibrated in his hand. He read the screen and frowned. What is it? I asked. He looked genuinely surprised. Someone wants to meet you. My stomach tightened. Who? Damien turned the phone toward me. A message glowed on the screen. She is here. Alone. The woman from the call. I felt my pulse jump. The woman who knew my father? Damien nodded. Apparently. Rain continued falling as we hurried downstairs. 10 minutes later, I stood inside the grand foyer watching security cameras displayed across a wall of monitors. A woman stepped out of the silver sedan. Late 50s. Dark coat. Gray hair. Calm posture. She looked nothing